that enabled a nation to commit large sums of money. One is obvious: war. People will spend almost any amount of money to not die. And so what kind of projects come under war and defense? The Apollo program, initiated out of fear of the Russians. The Manhattan Project, huge diversion of funds in the middle of the Second World War by the United States, with an international team of scientists. The Great Wall of China, a huge undertaking. The interstate system in the United States, it's just roads, of course. However, the interstate system, roads built to a specification established by Eisenhower after he saw the Autobahn in Germany in the Second World War. The Autobahn did not wash out in the rain. It supported troop movements and tanks. And he said, I want one of those. In came the interstate system, $100 billion. In fact, the interstate system cost the same as the Apollo program, motivated by not wanting to die, moving material and personnel around. What's number two? This is not as common today. Used to be common: praise of deity or royalty. From that you get the pyramids, and you get Versailles, you get like cathedral building in Europe as an activity. Huge investments in financial and physical capital. Today, royalty is not as powerful over nations as it was 300, 400, 500 years ago. So you don't see this today so much. The third, and another obvious one, but it's a total of three: promise of economic return. There you get Columbus and Magellan and Lewis and Clark. There's no end of this list. So what this comes down to is, I don't want to die, and I don't want to die poor. That will invest in practically anything. Notice on this list is not, let's explore, let's do this for science, let's do this because it's in our DNA. You could make that argument, and you could fund below a certain radar level a project, depending on the wealth of your nation. $1 billion here, $1 billion there, depending on the wealth of your nation. You could do projects where this is not relevant. But once the price starts getting higher, you're up against people's personal rejection of what might look like the activity of others for their own gain. Whereas everybody benefits if the nation sees an economic return or if you don't die. So these three forces, war, royalty, economics, are powerful. So I've used this to judge whether anything will ever happen. Are we going to put humans on Mars? Only if somebody judges that you have to do it, otherwise you would die. Kings are not going to do it anymore, or somebody's going to make a buck. That's my cynicism that I'm bringing to this conference. So here's one that will matter if you want to have settlements. They're thinking about this. Who owns the universe? Who owns it? You're going to settle? You're going to pitch tent? Does anybody own it? Why would you have unlimited access on the surface of another planet when you don't have unlimited access on this planet? On this planet, we're all human, yet you have to show papers to cross an artificial border established by politics. That's how we conduct our affairs on this Earth. Any reason to think that's going to be different in space? Why are you on Mars? You want to live there? Okay. What's motivating it? What's paying for it? Here's the problem. You might say, private enterprise will do it. No. My read of history tells me no. Let me repeat that. No. Not because I don't want it to be so. I'm just a realist about this. The Dutch were explorers from way back, mostly with economic interests, as in on the Earth in the age of the great periods of exploration. And so we have a Dutch person doing the same thing now with Mars. He wants to create a permanent human colony of 4 people beginning in 2032. So he's got investors, okay? How's he going to pay for it? He's going to televise it like the Olympics. Now, it takes 9 months to get there. That's a lot of television time to fill, but okay, it's a plan. What distinguishes Mars 1 is that when you go, there are no plans to bring you back. So the 1 in Mars 1 also stands for one way. I think it's clear. Whether or not we pitch tent on Mars and live there, which I'm skeptical of, what'll certainly attract people is tourism. No question about it. I would give up years of vacation time and money to go on 1 trip to Mars. This is portrayed for the moon, but either. Tourism cannot be under-recognized as an economic driving force. You don't want it to be a military reason, and kings are not going to do it anymore, so it's got to be economic. The same with AI. People are worried we're going to make a robot that's going to sort of take over the world. No, we're going to create AI that serves our various needs. The self-driving car is not going to be tasked with making your coffee or with flying the airplane. This very tuned AI that we have plenty of places for that to go in our society. In practice, who's going to make the one thing that does everything when you can make 100 things that do each thing perfectly? I think in practice it's not going to happen, even though it occupies the fear of so many people. This is the pie chart. $330 billion a year is spent on space. Equal parts in commercial infrastructure and products and services. This includes businesses that run on GPS. It includes direct TV, weather satellite reporting. The United States is the $44 billion in the upper corner. We spend about half again as much on space as the entire rest of the world. But each of those two small segments are small compared with the total business of space. So there is money to be made in space. By the way, the governments went to space first. Just let's remember that. They took the risks. They absorbed the risks. Commercial space follows. So at a minimum energy transfer, you can get to the moon in 3 days, Mars in 9 months, Jupiter 10 years or so, Saturn 20, Alpha Centauri, the nearest star system to Earth, 70,000 years. So whoever wants to say, let's colonize planets of other stars, there's a problem with the human physiology relative to the time that it takes to get there. If you're lucky, you live 100 years. That is 1/700th of this time. So it seems to me we'd have to learn something new about the space-time continuum with a wormhole of some kind before we consider colonizing planets around other stars. Space, the first trillionaires will be those who mine asteroids. Asteroids, the resources of the solar system. While you're mining it, maybe there's an asteroid out there that has our name on it. We ask you, could you please deflect that for us? And the governments get together and pay for the company that's already mining it to deflect it. Water in space costs $10,000 a pound. Sorry, I said pounds. To put into orbit. If you get it from a comet for $5,000 a pound or $1,000 a pound, that's a business model. Surely vacations, Mars, Moon, and beyond. Again, I don't see settlements so much. There are companies ready to do this. Planetary Resources, this is their landing page on the internet. And you scroll down to sustain life in space. So if you do set up a Disneyland on Mars, it needs supplies. So would you bring supplies from Earth? Not if you can get supplies from space and go from space to space. That's cheaper than launching something from Earth. So they want to control resources in space. They're going to have the first trillionaires if they pull this off. So 16,000 near-Earth asteroids, rich in resources, 2 trillion tons of water, 95% reduction in cost if you go space to space. They've already thought this through. It has a board. You know what else is on asteroids? Rare earth metals. All right? These are the full range of rare earth metals off the periodic table. Rare earth metals are not so rare on Earth, except they're hard to get to, and they're not everywhere. So if you can get an asteroid that has plentiful supplies of these, our modern technology needs these to function. These are key components of our batteries, our cell phones, our communication devices. Not only those asteroids have precious metals, gold, silver, platinum group elements, and of course they have water. Plus, we've been to them before. Governments paid missions to visit asteroids. This is asteroid Ida. This is Galileo approaching Ida. It did not collide. That's actual footage as it got closer. It's not just a zoom in. This is Ida. We've been to asteroids. We understand them. We've even landed on comets. But perhaps the most important motivation, let's get back to the war motivation, defense. I don't want war to be a reason for anything, so let's rethink that. Maybe there's a security problem that we face as a world body. Let me remind you that the universe, there are many ways Earth wants to kill you, earthquakes, tsunamis, this sort of thing. The universe wants to kill you too. These will happen, but they're not as common. you know, you want to avoid black holes at all costs, yes. Solar storms are bad, but what's much more real are impacts. And we have had extinction level impacts in the past. So you could colonize other planets to mitigate this, but again, you have humans on 2 planets and one is about to go extinct. You're just going to sit there and say, goodbye, glad we're not there. No, you're going to deflect it, especially if you already have people who know how to mine them. So that's not worried about, but there could be one. You didn't want to be on Earth when that happened. This is a real crater in Arizona. It's a kilometer across, 1.5 kilometers across. It can sink a 60-story building in the middle. We've been hit before, we will be hit again. You want a space program and you want to fund it? Say, we don't want to die. We don't want to go extinct. How's that for a defense program? You want evidence that this is real? Anyone here from Russia? Any Russians in the room? Russia, Chelyabinsk, the town, February 15th, 2013. Forward-facing dashboard camera. You see a little dot of light in the middle? Watch this. That's full video and sound in the car. Now, I'd always been told that the Russians are stoic people. If I were driving that car, I was like, holy shit! The car would have at least... And I know what I'm looking at, right? I would have at least reacted in some way. Just to show you that we're in a shooting gallery, 17-meter, 10,000 tons, 40,000 miles per hour. The energy of 25 Hiroshima bombs. But it exploded 20 miles up. Again, apologize for the miles. 30 kilometers up. So a lot of the energy was diluted. But what it did, no one died. But the blast wave collapsed walls, shattered windows. The injuries were glass, shattered glass. And there's a time delay. That's how so many people got injured. They're sitting there eating breakfast, a bright light comes through the window. And so I wonder what that light is. And then they walk over to the window, look out the window, then the blast wave hits. The time delay between the light and the sound. Here's an example of video in the town of Chelyabinsk. So that's the smoke that went just passed above them. So here it is, amateur video after it passed over.
Не сгорел там, да? No.
That's the shock wave. But there's a couple more.
Ты думаешь, может, спутник там уже же падал, они...
We can laugh because no one died, but this is a compilation of the blast videos. And this is 17-meter asteroid. That's all. 17 meters, size of the stage. Hey, where did he come from, right? Warehouse structures are not reinforced typically, so they were the most susceptible to this blast wave.
Ну что, ребята, счастливого, счастья.
So what I like about this is the kids didn't run out of the room. It was like, oh gee, what was that? Let me keep looking. Let me end with just a reflection on the value of even saying you want to go into space and doing so, even if the projects are not expensive or you're not colonizing yet. Because doing so can have an effect on culture. First, let me say that space is a gateway subject into the sciences, all of these. Physics, planetary geology, biology, chemistry, medicine, all of this matters when you go into space. So it is the ideal driver of STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. And STEM fields are the engines of tomorrow's economy.